Right, there we go, everybody. That was our new intro music, which was very kindly put together for us by a good friend of Mark H's, Stuart Jebbett. We're massively thankful to Stuart for doing that for us. Huge favour he's done us there. A bit of intro music. So you're going to hear that from now on the Two Saints podcast show and on the Two Saints version of the show on air on Fiesta 95 FM from now on. That'll be the intro music for the show and the exit music for the show. Anyway. If you'd like a copy of the podcast edition of the show, please drop us a message on the Two Saints page on Facebook and we can send you a copy of the podcast directly. Just a reminder to everyone, you can also listen to the Two Saints show on onlineradiobox.com when we're on air on the radio. Right, getting into the Two Saints show today, I'm just going to make some introductions. So I'm Mark C, the host of the Two Saints show, and I'm joined by my co-host Mark H. Good to see you, Mark.
Good to see you too, mate. And it's good to be back in tandem again after last week. You know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the show. There's lots to get through, lots to crack on with, and hopefully the listeners out there will enjoy it.
I hope so.
We also have Dean Hammond's special interview.
Certainly do. So yeah, as Mark said, we've got an exclusive interview. It's an exclusive to the Two Saints show podcast, a radio show. It's an exclusive interview with Dean Hammond, former Saints captain, obviously, winner of the JPT for us, fantastic guy. And we had a really good chat with Dean. It was courtesy of two friends of ours of the show, Adil Tariq and his brother Hassan. Very grateful to both of them, gave up their time and effort to do that for us. And obviously, massive thanks to Dean Hammond for getting involved as well. Huge for us. As I say, it's a Two Saints show exclusive. We can't wait to put that out there. So obviously, stay tuned. So coming up on today's show, we've got Saints news, Premier League and other football-related news, and Saints transfer news.
Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday, 12 till 2. It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints show.
Disclaimer, this show is for entertainment only and not meant to insult or defame anybody in any way or form. These are just our views. These are not the views of Fiesta FM or its management or sponsors.
Right, kicking things off, we're going to start with our first topic today, which is Saints news. And it's a story relating to Ricky Lambert. Ricky Lambert revealed who was the biggest influence on his career. What we're going to do is we're going to buzz through some of these and we're going to come back to the ones that we think deserve a little bit more talking about. So I'll just rattle through them quickly and then myself and Mark will come back to the Ricky Lambert one and we'll start from there. So Ricky Lambert reveals who was the biggest influence on his career. Graham Souness reveals the untold story of Southampton misfit Ali Dia. That should be quite an interesting one. Some of us think we know the story, but Graham's actually finally lifted the lid on it. And I did actually see the interview he did with Matt Letizia as well. It was quite amusing. So we'll come back to that. Franny Benali's
very amusing.
Absolutely. Franny Benali's been at it again, raised over £13,000. Also, he wants to see the season completed. Stuart Armstrong at Lord's Southampton teammates for response to the coronavirus crisis. Stuart Armstrong's hoping to return to form for Southampton when football resumes. Richard Chaplow on coaching ambitions and returning to Southampton one day. Also, Papa Wigo's agent admitted that he actually tricked him into accepting a loan move to St Mary's in 2009. And also news of a new Saints archive that's set to go live. So, going back to the top of the list, Ricky Lambert revealed who's the biggest influence on his career, Mark, which is quite an interesting one, I think. A lot of people seem to be under the impression that Pochettino was the reason. I hate to tell you this, guys, it actually wasn't. Ricky's actually saying it was a different person, and I'll hand over to Mark now, who'll tell you which manager he actually says was the biggest influence on his career.
Yeah. I'm glad to see that he actually is getting a bit of credit because even though he was only with us for a season and a bit, this manager overseen us winning the JTP unfortunately didn't see us get promoted, and that is Alan Pardew.
Which is very interesting actually, because Lambert actually has said that Alan Pardew, we all know actually Alan Pardew was the manager that Ricky actually spent the least time with.
Yeah, but I think the thing is like if a manager's telling you, because okay, Ricky scored goals in the lower league, but I think in a previous interview that I seen with him, he talked about when he came to Southampton, and there was an attitude change because Alan Pardew had basically said, look, you need to take better care of yourself if you want to have any sort of longevity in the game. What he meant by that obviously was extend his career, and and I think at the end of the day, like Ricky said, he took it on board, because before he came to Southampton, in his words, he said he didn't feel like he was leading the life of a professional footballer. I think what he meant by that was, he wasn't eating the right things. He wasn't necessarily, putting his heart and soul into everything in the sense of, doing things in the right way.
Yeah, he actually said he was kind of in the League Two culture of he'd eat what he wanted, he'd drink alcohol, and basically because he was leading goal scorer, he wasn't thinking about anything other than, I'm leading goal scorer, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly.
And he basically said, Pardew gave him a right kick up the backside and said to him, look, you're an absolute disgrace. You need to sort yourself out, cut the drinking out, start eating properly. And Ricky said, he was about 16 odd stone when he first arrived at the States. And to be fair, I remember when he first arrived, he was quite stocky. He was carrying a bit of bulk, slimmed down a bit. And when he got his fitness level up, he was something else. And we all know what a job Ricky did when his fitness was there.
The thing is, Mark, I sort of understand it, because everywhere he went, he scored goals, right?
Yeah,
in the lower leagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is like, it's a little bit, the whole story's a little bit like, in the first instance, he's a big fish in a small pond, okay? Yep. And then he comes to Southampton, no disrespect to anywhere he's been before.
Yeah.
But, big club.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he is a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he certainly was, to be fair. I mean, it's nice to hear that he's giving Pardew credit for that. And, obviously, those of us that were there that followed Ricky's career, that followed Saints under Pardew, Pochettino, etc., couldn't really disagree with that. I mean, it's good to hear him saying that's quite refreshing that it's not Pochettino being mentioned for once.
Exactly. And
let's not remember, Pochettino wasn't there for long, people. He actually bolted at the first chance he got. So let's remember that. Anyway, moving on.
Or Nigel Adkins, who gets a lot of credit, deservedly.
Well, in my book, Nigel Adkins, absolute legend, back-to-back promotions. That's all you need to say on that one for me. The man's just class, and even now, he's doing his little motivational talks in the morning, keeping everyone going on Twitter, which is fantastic. So keep it up, Nigel. It's great to see. Anyway, moving on now to the story of Ali Dia. Graham Souness revealed the untold story, which is slightly different to the version we got. Now, the version we got was that basically Graham Souness had a phone call from somebody saying it was George Weah. This was his cousin Ali Dia, fantastic player, wanted to come over and play for Saints, etc., that Graham Souness had been fooled. Now, Graham's version of it is the club actually had a call saying this guy was George Weah's cousin. And he actually said that within 5 minutes of the guy being on the pitch, they actually realised he was hopeless. But because they had so many injuries at the time, obviously it was very difficult to not put him in the squad. And that's obviously what he did. Obviously, they also alluded to the fact that Matt Letizia at the time was carrying a thigh injury. But Matt alluded to the fact that, unfortunately, he sadly was the player that got substituted for the worst person ever to appear in the Premier League, Mark.
Right, so I'll tell you what I know about the incident. So last year, I went to an event at the Guildhall.
Yeah.
And Matt Letizia and Laurie Mack were there.
Yep.
Obviously, Laurie Mack was kind of director of football at the time.
That's right, yeah.
When Graham was there, and actually they both left at the same time, believe it or not. They both left. So
Souness actually alluded to the fact that his reason for leaving was the fact that Rupert Lowe, shocker, didn't want to invest.
So shock. So I can confirm, right, that the night that I was there, Laurie Mack had basically said that concerning Ali Dia, that basically what had happened was they had received the call, and the name had been touted about, and I think the thinking was, and I think Graham even backs this up, the thinking was, we've got a small squad anyway. They were short of strikers. The only fit striker they had going into the Saturday game, obviously, was Matt Letizia. I seen the same bit of footage that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And what I loved was Matt Letizia's comment when he turned around and he said he thought he was a competition winner.
Yeah, he added to that and said it must have been some competition he won because he got to listen to the team talk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, he was in the dressing room.
He was.
Listen to the team talk. So, but the interesting thing that I found out as well, this was a few years ago, was if you look at the team from that day, Mark, okay?
Yep.
It was in the days where you could name 3 subs. Okay?
Yep.
And the 3 subs for that day on the bench was Ali himself, obviously.
Yeah.
Robbie Slater, who was, I mean, okay, you could turn around and say he was an attacking player in the sense that he was a winger. Yeah. He wasn't real. He's not a centre forward, is he? And
no.
And then the other person that was named on the bench was Ken Monkai.
Yeah, basically they had Matt Letizia was the only fit striker. Now that's slightly wrong because Matt was not a striker, was he? So if anything, we didn't actually have a fit striker, which was a bit of an issue.
So and like you alluded to, the problem was that apparently he said that in training he sort of felt the strain, and then he thought I'll be okay for Saturday.
Yeah,
but obviously it went after 20 minutes.
That's right.
On Kim Ali.
Yeah, that's right. So, it was quite interesting, the fact that obviously it's very different to what people hear. It's very different to what people have seen. Just remind everyone, we just let everyone know where these articles that we've got are coming from. The Ricky Lambert one was actually courtesy of The Ugly Inside. So we appreciate being able to use that information. And the Graham Souness one was actually via Sky Sports. So just to obviously make everyone aware of where we're getting these stories from. We like to just keep everyone abreast of what we're up to, obviously. So moving on to the next story, which involves an absolute legend, Mark, at Southampton Football Club. One Francis Benali, who's been at it again, hasn't he? The man's an absolute machine. Raised over £13,000 for the Saints Foundation and NHS charities together following the completion of his gruelling Garden Marathon. Yeah. In sweltering conditions, the former Southampton defender finished the 26.2 miles in just under 5 hours.
Yeah.
Raising funds, obviously, as I said, for Saints Foundation and NHS charities together.
So I was able to watch the first mile live.
Yep.
On Sunday.
And he also changed his kits quite often, didn't he?
Yeah. I didn't get to see that, but seen the first mile live and the last mile live, and he looked. I mean, I'm sure it was hurting, but to me, he looked as fresh as what he did for the first mile. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I especially like the fact that his wife. I especially like the fact his wife asked him what he wanted to do afterwards, and he went, "Oh, I don't know, a bit sunbathing." Fantastic. So I just thought it was quite impressive, considering that he'd only sort of agreed to do it a week before, hadn't he? So he didn't actually have any training. Yeah,
exactly. It was it was a great effort, yet again from him, and he just. Again, it's another person that just makes you proud to be a Saints fan, and
absolutely,
and have that connection to the city as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I thought it was absolutely phenomenal from him. Yet again, I'm not even surprised. Although what I was slightly annoyed about was I saw somebody made a comment and said, "Well, it's a shame he didn't really run around his garden." Yeah, just to clarify that, it was actually on the grounds of health and safety. He was advised that it wasn't a good idea to run around his own garden. They felt it wasn't a good idea to do that in the conditions. So that was the reason for using his treadmill to do it. What does it matter? He still did it. And I'd like to see anyone else run a marathon in 5 hours, to be fair. Exactly. So, a little bit of credit where he's due. And I saw that Kenzie got a little bit annoyed with the person that said it at the time, which is understandable because he raised over £12,000. So certainly nothing to be ashamed of there. So moving on to the next story, which is relating to the fact that Franny's also said, Franny Benali, that he'd like to see the Premier League season completed. This was in the Daily Echo, an interview that he did in Daily Echo Sport. And he basically said he wanted to see the Premier League completed. So he basically said he's missing Premier League football as much as the next person, but insists it should only return when it's deemed safe to do so. I have a slightly different take on that, and the fact that I believe it should be ended. But that's just me.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, my feeling is I get everything concerning football and what it means to certain people and everything like that there, and people want things to be normalised, but this is an extraordinary situation, and I know this sounds a little bit foolhardy and people may disagree. You know, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and this show's about opinions.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I'd rather save lives or protect lives, you know, and that's got to come first. Whether it's football, whether it's the economy, you know, because we've lost too many lives already.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is, to be fair, I think this is more about money than anything else. This is not about the welfare of other people, and it's been proved by the fact that there are rumours that part of the plan for going back to the Premier League full time and then playing is the fact they're going to be testing Premier League footballers twice a week for the coronavirus. You can't even get a test as an average person, yet they're willing to test millionaire footballers twice a week. That in itself is ethically wrong. And that has immediately got my back up on that one. I'm missing football as much as anyone. I'd love to see the season finished, but in my opinion, it is far too dangerous to do that, and they are far better writing the season off and starting again next year.
I mean, it's as simple as this, and I've given a lot of thought, is what happens if there's, and God forbid, but if there's a death? What happens if there's a death of a footballer?
Well, the thing is as well, you're thinking of the footballers. Well, the thing is, you're thinking of the footballers' families as well, and you know they've got families as well as anyone else has. And potentially, you're talking about Premier League. You're talking about footballers potentially having 2 months away from their family.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Potentially, it could be 2 months away from their family. Potentially, are any of them going to want to do that? Really? And to be fair, there's the other side of it. How do you know the players themselves are actually going to want to play?
Because I know
I'm hearing rumours that some of them don't want to play because they don't feel it's going to be safe.
Just kind of staying on the same topic, but. You know, obviously we've seen the pictures and stuff like that there of the pitch being dug up, you know, which leads you to sort of think that, you know, if it does come back in any guise, obviously, you know, goes without saying it'll be behind closed doors. But I also think that it will be centred around one area where you've got maybe multiple pitches, potentially somewhere like St George's Park, but I'm with you 100%. I don't see how football can function while deaths are still occurring.
Absolutely.
Or the potential, even just the potential for deaths is there.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a crazy idea to me.
Absolutely.
But there you go.
So, one of the players who's obviously been in quite good form up until the football had this enforced break, obviously, for Southampton, Stuart Armstrong, Mark. Yeah, he's actually obviously praised the fact that that Southampton were the first club to agree wage deferrals. He believes it shows the determination within the dressing room, not just to help the club, but also the local community. Saints players signed up to a 10% deferral for 3 months, while they've given generously to the Players Together movement set up by Premier League stars to help the NHS. He said every club's different, every club has their own needs, and as a club, it was a great decision to try to help the club to really help the community with support. So yeah, can't argue with that. Unfortunately for Stuart, the break sort of came at the wrong time for him, didn't it? Because he was just hitting an absolute rich vein of form.
He was playing absolutely great at the time. Obviously, he's a bit of a favourite on the Two Saints show anyway. So
yeah, just a little bit. I think we'd be lying if we said otherwise.
Yeah, you know. I always just think whenever, you know, it's a little bit like you like the players that when the team's ticking, you know that player's ticking as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know the team's playing well, and that you know that player's having an exceptional game himself.
Absolutely.
And that has been very much sort of Stuart's season where it wasn't so great to kind of start off with.
Yeah, definitely. You know? Absolutely, can't argue with that.
And then obviously it's picked up, and when he is on song, you know, I always feel that the team's playing well when he's playing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with that. At all. So yeah, moving on to the next topic, which is again relating to Stuart Armstrong. And he's basically saying that he's hoping to return to form for Southampton once football resumes. So kind of slightly covering what we mentioned just now as well. But basically saying the Scotland midfielder was enjoying a fine campaign for the Saints and is eager to continue his great form when it's safe to do so. Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say he scored some crucial goals as well. And he doesn't score tap-ins, Mark, does he?
No, he's not a tap-ins man. And the other thing is, you know, probably his range of pass, and he's probably one of the best at it
absolutely.
at the football club in terms of his range of passing, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
he seems to see a pass really well too, which is a vision thing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I've said, I made no secret of it. I actually think he was a direct replacement for Stephen Davis, and I think he's certainly proving that. I think if he was brought in to replace Stephen Davis, then I'd say he's quite an adequate replacement, to be fair. No offence to Steve Davis, he did a fantastic job for us when he was at the club. Wish him all the best, obviously.
Mind you, Stephen Davis only cost $1 million.
Absolutely.
Well,
it cost a little bit more.
Less than 1,750,000.
Well, Stuart would probably argue he's got a far better head of hair.
and I would agree with him.
Yeah. I would agree with him. Stuart's quite well known in the Saints fan base for his hair, to be fair, Mark, isn't he? I don't think Stuart's hairdo's gone unnoticed. So yeah, he's hoping to return to form once things get up and running, but obviously he's balancing that out with realising that obviously things have to be right, and the right conditions have to be there for players to return.
Yeah, no,
which is very sensible.
Very much so, yeah.
So yeah, stop saying such positive things, Stuart. You're growing on everyone. Not used to this positivity coming out of St Mary's, you know. Right, moving on now. Richard Chaplow, who obviously had 2 stints at Saints, has actually been speaking about his coaching ambitions and hoping to return to Southampton one day, which is quite interesting, Mark. Obviously, great servant to the club when he was there. Had 2 spells at Saints. Didn't disappoint in either spell, to be fair. He obviously is fondly remembered by Saints fans for his contribution to helping the club return to the Premier League via back-to-back promotion. And obviously, now he's currently living in California. He's been serving as assistant coach at Orange County SC. He played for the club for over 2 years over there. Speaking on When the Saints podcast, he explained his move to coaching and how he'd love to return to Southampton in a coaching capacity someday. I'd quite like to see him back at the club, Mark.
So would I, but I think there's other people that are coming up in this podcast that I'd sooner like to see back at the club. But
and the greatest respect in the world to Richard Chaplow as well, as much as it'd be great to have him back at the club. There's only so many people you can accommodate. Yeah,
and that's the problem, isn't it? Because there's so many people that you sort of connect with as footballers and they do great things for the football club, you know.
Well, the thing is,
Richard's in that bracket.
Absolutely.
You know,
also he's still got the thing is as well, he's also still got friends that still live down here. So obviously Danny Butterfield still lives down here. Calvin Davis is still down here. Dan Harding's still down here. James Beattie's down this way now. Obviously not somebody you would have necessarily known, but obviously he's in the area. So a lot of players in the area now that Chaplow would know. Dean Hammond obviously
lives in Sussex.
Yep, absolutely.
And the other thing that I would say is, when Richard lived here, he had a property in Winchester. So whether Richard still got the property in Winchester, I don't know. But as I say, of course, you know, it's one of those where you sit there and you go, I'd love to see him return. Of course I would. You know, one of his first goals for Saints, and this was in his first loan spell. So I think it was about 2-3 years before he you know, he came back again and then he signed permanently. But one of the first goals he ever signed for Saints, and I was there, was a goal, I think, at the Priestfield Stadium, Gillingham, or not Gillingham, sorry. It was at the Priestfield? I'm not sure. So we played Brighton. That was it. It was a farmer. It was at the running track place that they had as a temporary home. He scored.
That would be the Withdean Stadium.
Yeah, he scored there in a 2-0 victory, I think it was. But as I say, I mean, Chappers, he's got a brilliant sense of humour. He looks like a lad that's kind of up for anything, and you know, no doubt from his time of playing for Saints, we can now say that he's a Saints supporter. So I mean, you'd love to see him back, but it's like you said, how many coaching staff can you have?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because
given what's coming up in the show, you'll find out.
If I had my way, they'd all be ex-Saints players, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You've got
Absolutely.
badges, come and work for Saints, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think if you've got your badges, then, I think that does put a slightly different slant on it. But, I think also you've got to balance that out with a little bit of, jobs for the boys is great, but you've got to draw the line somewhere, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty, it's knowing where to draw the line and saying how many people do we want on board. But yeah, I mean, chap play for me, thoroughly enjoyed his time at Saints, loved watching him play. And for me, he was always one of those players who wanted to score goals, and he did.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, definitely.
So, moving on, very interesting story about another Saints player who for me was a great acquisition at the time, very entertaining. I always remember when they introduced him at St Mary's and the reception he got, none other than Papa Wago. His agent actually came out and said that he actually convinced him about his loan move in 2009 by actually being a little bit flexible with the truth, I think we'll say. He actually told me that Saints were in the Championship, not League One, and that they were actually in London. So, Papa Wago kind of came and joined Saints on a proviso from his agent that they were in London and in the Championship, not in League One. So I can imagine his shock when he turned up on the South Coast. Probably thought, what the hell's going on here? And he's clearly never studied himself. Geography.
This is some sort of strange London. He's probably sat there going, hang on, where's Trafalgar Square? You know what I mean?
I'm sure as he came along.
Where's the Houses of Parliament? Where's Big Ben? You know what I mean?
I'm sure as he came along Marine Parade, he probably thought the Thames looked a bit strange. I'm amazed he got away with that. But yeah, he basically said he tricked him into accepting a loan deal on the South Coast.
The thing that appears to me about
he's obviously still playing. He's 36 years old, now plays for Masafi Sports Club in the United Arab Emirates. So no doubt he's probably earning a fair pretty penny out there.
The thing is
it's quite well duped, it's fair to say.
It's evident that he loved this time, at Saints, bearing in mind that he's come here thinking that he's going somewhere else. And the ironic thing about that is, he scored some really important goals during the loan spell when he was...
also scored in the JPT final.
JPT final, that's the one that springs to mind.
Absolutely.
But, the thing that I would say is it's ironic that initially, he was probably not sure about the idea.
Yeah.
And then, he had such a great affinity with the fans. I mean, I love them personally. I'd have had him back on a 2-year deal. I mean, I think in the article it said something about by the end of his loan time here, he was pressing for his agent.
Oh, he wanted a
permanent deal here. So it was a shame that never kind of happened.
Well, I remember talking to you about this last night as well, Mark, and I'm obviously saying to you last night that I was surprised there wasn't a certain chant out about Papa Wago when we signed Gooley, saying you're just a Papa Wago to Gooley, which obviously it would have been a little bit unfair on Gooley, but when he first came here, he wasn't impressing anyone, was he? Massively when he first arrived at the club, Gooley, and obviously, as I said to you last night, jokingly, very tongue in cheek. I'm surprised there wasn't a little chant going, "You're just Papa Wago."
The thing is, going back to Papa Wago, just Mark, very quickly. I mean, one of the things that I found really entertaining was that he had his signature sort of Senegalese dance. Let's put it like that. When he scored, and I loved all that because when do you see people having their own sort of signature celebration when they score a goal?
Absolutely.
And that endeared him a lot to the St Mary's crowd,
Well, I always remember sort of chuckling when they invaded him as well, because they sort of brought him on the pitch, chucked a ball at him, and he kind of looked at him like, "What are you doing?" It was quite amusing. So, moving on to the next part of news, and this is great news for all Saints fans. Something Mark knows a little bit about. This is obviously being covered by the Ugly Inside. It's news that Duncan Holly, along with David Ball and Gary Chalk, has been involved in publishing books on Southampton FC's history since the 1980s. But this is his first online venture, and it's thoroughly recommended. He's actually launched a new Saints archive, which is... Mark will tell me what the name of it is. I'll just hand over to Mark now. Mark knows a little bit more about this than I do. But absolutely fantastic website for all Saints fans if you want to get involved. And Mark's got the details. Over to you, Mark.
So basically, the website is saintsplayers.co.uk, and it's Duncan's own venture, online venture. Basically, it stemmed from when they did the book. I'm trying to think of the name of the book and I can't think. They did one called In That Number, but basically the idea is something similar, but obviously it gives Saints fans a chance to access, all the details for a lot of the players online, and it'll be a I've already had a look around it. It's an invaluable resource. It really is a valuable resource. So, I would recommend for people to get on there, have a look at it. As I say, it's called Saints Players. saintsplayers.co.uk. So saintsplayers.co.uk, and it's basically the Southampton FC player archive.
Yeah.
That's how you would kind of describe it. But it should be a great resource for anybody who wants to check up about players that have played for Saints or anything like that. And I've got to say as well, well done, Duncan, because something like this is sort of overdue if you're a Saints fan.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of being able to access that kind of information online.
Yeah, definitely.
So, well done, Duncan Holly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mark. And what I would also add to that is if you're a young Saints fan who doesn't know an awful lot about the ex-players, former players that came before the likes of Letizia, likes of Lambert, the Wallaces, if you're not sure of some of the other players before that, this is an ideal resource for you to do that.
Exactly.
You can really do some research. People that aren't aware of that, younger fans that don't know an awful lot about the club. And to be fair, this time under lockdown as well, it's a fantastic tool for parents who've got children that really love Saints FC. Yeah. It's a fantastic tool for parents to use, isn't it? And give them a bit of a football education.
Yes, no,
while they're all off school.
Very much so. I mean, I hope that some of the younger Saints fans are using their time valuably, and they are investigating about the history and past players and stuff like that. And as I said, it'll be a valuable tool. I know that us on the Two Saints show certainly will be using it from time to time, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So we're going to have a very short break for you now.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show. The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday, 12 till 2 for informative football chat and great tunes.
So moving on from that, Project Restart. Premier League ramps up plans for resuming season. So we'll just rattle through these and come back to them like we normally do. UEFA asked European leagues for a decision on domestic seasons by 25th of May. Coronavirus in football. FIFA medical chair does not want the restart of the season. Peter Ridsdale, former Leeds, Barnsley and Cardiff chairman, says Premier League cash needs to flow down pyramid. That brings us to the bottom of the Premier League and other football news links, Mark. So we'll go back up to the top. Project Restart. Premier League ramps up plans for resuming season. And we already know my thoughts on this.
Yeah,
over to you.
I mean, obviously, as I say, it would be good to hear the whole article.
Yeah, we're just going to get into that. I was just going to get Mark's initial thoughts before I plough into it.
I mean, all I would say is I've stated on team, my position hasn't changed on it. I don't want to see and it's got nothing to do with Liverpool winning the title. Let's just put that out there as well.
Yeah.
I think if everything was just, what you would do is you would stop the season now in terms of European places and league titles. The only problem is it's a bit unfair on the bottom three teams because obviously there's still 9 games to go. But in an ideal world, look, the bottom line is Liverpool's won the title, and it's terrible for, if you're a supporter of them that you're not, you may not see them get and stuff like that. But like I said, football's more important than money.
Yeah.
And everything else. And like you said, Mark, the bottom line is this is all about money.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to
money. It's nothing to do. It's nothing to do with taking care of people's lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just going to add something quickly before I plough through the article. And basically, what it is, from my point of view, my input would be, if you look at the French league at the moment, they've obviously said League One is not going to finish. PSG have basically just been given the title. They've actually awarded PSG the title despite the fact the season's not going to finish. I don't see why they can't do that with the Premier League. Yeah. Give Liverpool the title and end the season. Anyway, the article basically says plans to resume the Premier League will step up this week in what's been labelled Project Restart. Arsenal, Brighton and West Ham have opened their training grounds to players for individual work from Monday. Don't agree with that either. The league is hopeful of a potential 8th of June restart and finishing at the end of July to fit in with UEFA's European competition plans. This would require full training to begin by May the 18th. Top flight clubs will meet on Friday to discuss options for the restart. Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden said he'd been in contact with clubs about restarting the Premier League as soon as possible. I've personally been in talks with the Premier League with a view to getting football up and running as soon as possible in order to support the whole football community, Dowden said during a parliamentary question session for the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport. But of course, any such moves would have to be consistent with public health guidance. It comes as details emerge of a cross-sport working group set up to discuss options for returning to training. From Tuesday, Tottenham will make a limited number of pitches available for the first team squad to use in individual sessions. Only one player will be allowed on the pitch and each player will travel independently to the training ground. The club have also restricted the number of players who will be at the training ground at any one time. Premier League has currently been suspended since March the 13th because of the pandemic, and all clubs remain committed to playing this season's 92 remaining fixtures. Yeah, everyone in the Premier League, bar everyone else below them. Because people in the Championship League One certainly don't want to continue playing.
I just want to go back to something else you covered there, Mark, for a second, so that people get the full picture. So Holland have basically cancelled the rest of their season, okay?
Yeah.
But in France, slightly different.
Yeah.
What they've said, and you're quite right in what you say, but what they've said in France is that they're not planning to have any kind of restart, and they're constantly looking at the situation, but there won't be a restart, if at all, in France until September.
Absolutely.
That's what they've said, until September.
So,
right? And the thing is, the other thing I want to point out as well is that it's kind of what we talked about, in the sense that Germany, for example, are due to come back on the 9th of May.
Yeah.
Now, you and I both discussed this. Germany lifted the restrictions, right?
Yep.
You know, only slightly, but they lifted the restrictions.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden we've seen an increase in coronavirus infections.
Yep.
So maybe, you know, there has to be even an air of caution there if they're going to start up the 9th of May.
Yeah, I mean, it does say all games are expected to be held behind closed doors, and the league's considering making some available on free-to-air TV. That in itself's not right, in my opinion. But anyway, one issue under debate on Friday will be what approved stadiums will be used and whether that will be a limited number of grounds or neutral venues. However, a return to action still depends on the government's 5 tests being met, especially an increase in testing and meeting social distancing guidelines. So what are the 5 tests? Well, basically it hinges on the conclusion reached by regular cross-sport meetings of senior medical officials discussing the health protocols for competing behind closed doors, which is set to start late this week. BBC reported on Saturday how the government has plans for a series of these meetings to help elite sport resume. And the move was described by a source close to the plans as a quickening of the pace, intended to help sport resume within weeks if progress was made. More than 20,000 people in the UK have died with coronavirus. So the 5 tests are basically, they want to see the number of new cases going down, they want to see hospital admissions going down, they want to see deaths going down, they want the NHS to have the capacity to still be able to function, and they want this increased testing. This is my opinion. I think that's my understanding of the 5 tests that the government want to see adhered to. So it'd be interesting to see how it works out.
That's fine, but then if you look at those 5 tests, that doesn't really, you know, come into the equation when we're talking about football. It's kind of like what I said to you, Mark, before. Yeah. The thing is the game, you know, what happens, you know, I keep going back to the same thing.
Yeah.
But what happens if one of the footballers was to contract coronavirus and die? What then?
Absolutely. Well, all I'm going to say is I heard what Simon Jordan was saying on TalkSport, basically saying that it's only going to take a death and we'll be back to square one. And I agree with him 100%. I don't believe it should restart. And to be fair, I get more and more annoyed every day hearing all these people about the Premier League going, football should return, football should return, football should return. People are dying. It's not important. As much as I love football, as much as I love doing this show, football is not important at the moment, and returning the Premier League to restart, no, for me, it's not important at the moment at all. So moving on from there, UEFA have asked European leagues for a decision by the 25th of May on when they're going to resume the season. Now, that's pressure from UEFA, and I just don't agree with that. So basically what they've said is they have until the 25th of May to tell them whether they want to complete or cancel seasons. Football is suspended in all European countries apart from Belarus because of the pandemic. Premier League's this week stepped up its plans to resume the season. Obviously, we've just covered that. The Premier League's hopeful of a potential June 8th restart and finishing at the end of July to fit in with UEFA's competition plans. Obviously, top flight clubs meeting on Friday to discuss options about that. Obviously, we covered what Oliver Dowden had to say about that. I mean, obviously, the overriding principle for all parties is health and safety of all participants on and off the field. Okay, fair enough. On Tuesday, French government banned all sporting events, even without spectators, until September, signalling the end of the season for the top two divisions in the country. Dutch top flight was abandoned on Friday. The deadline set by UEFA is referred to in a set of guidelines on eligibility principles, and they've basically said, given the unforeseen circumstances, given the unforeseen and unprecedented situation, national associations and leagues are facing a situation whereby the completion of their domestic competitions may be at risk. Stakeholders are told they should be in a position to communicate to UEFA by the 25th of May planned restart of their domestic competitions. In the event of domestic competition is to be prematurely...
Mark, hang on a minute. Stakeholders. You see, that's what we're talking about here. Stakeholders. Yep. It's back to money again.
Yep,
back
absolutely.
to money again. And all I wanted to say to you was it's all right for UEFA, and, at the end of the day, they're the governing body for Europe.
Yep.
But it's all right for UEFA to turn around and say those things. But the individual football authorities in the countries, it's up to them to make the decisions.
See, now,
you've got to make a decision that you're comfortable with. So effectively under UEFA's thing, because they want the decision by the 25th of May, right? Then how are France going to, the French authorities, football authorities, going to be comfortable with saying we're not completing until, we don't want to complete at least until September.
Well, the thing is, it says in the article it's viewed as flexible guidance rather than a rigid deadline. However, it does actually say UEFA made it clear it wants on-field performance to determine which clubs make up next season's European club competition despite the current shutdown. Now, it says if league seasons cannot be finished, it said national associations would need to select clubs to qualify for Europe. That is wrong.
Yeah.
And it just screams corruption to me. Sorry, if it was FIFA, we'd be screaming corruption, wouldn't we? Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, that's just, for me, that's just not on at all. I don't agree with that whatsoever. So, coronavirus and football. The FIFA medical chair does not want a restart this season, and I heartily agree with him. So FIFA's chief doctor has warned against restarting the interrupted season, suggesting governing bodies prepare for action next season instead. He said, as a doctor, he'd be sceptical about continuing leagues amid the coronavirus pandemic. He said, my proposal is, if it's possible, avoid playing competitive football in the coming weeks. Try to be prepared for the start of good competition next season. There is a risk, and it's not a risk that has small consequences. It can have consequences of life and death. That's why I'm so careful and ask everyone to be careful before deciding to play again. I speak as a doctor, I don't have to speak as an organiser of matches. For the moment, from my medical standpoint, I'd be very sceptical. Also added it'd be very difficult to continue social distancing if football matches were to resume. I believe some hygienic rules would have to be put in place if seasons were to continue. How do you avoid direct contact? He said, that's my question. For the moment, the criteria means it's absolutely difficult to say that we can play football, and believe me, I regret it profoundly because I'm a football man. I'm a little bit afraid that to have a complete solution, we'd have to wait until we have a vaccine programme, but I think the time's come now to think of some hygienic rules. I don't think that time's come at all. I just don't think they should be doing it. Avoid spitting. Okay, how do you stop players from spitting?
Look, the bottom line, like he's sort of trying to point out or hint at is, it is a contact sport,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
What are players going to do? Are they going to go, 6 feet in front of somebody and just stop there?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's a crazy situation. I mean, as the compiler of the show, Mark, I just thought it was important to raise this because this is coming from FIFA's chief medical.
Absolutely.
Advisor, chief medical advisor. It's not Joe Blogs on the street here. This is right from their chief medical advisor. And Absolutely. If he's advising people to stop playing football effectively, then I think you should be taking notice. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the thing is, you listen to all the countries at the moment talking about the coronavirus, and they're all saying they're being led by science. Well, why are the Premier League and UEFA the only organisations not being led by science? It's ridiculous.
Yes,
it makes an absolute mockery of it. They are not taking this seriously whatsoever.
But like I said, it just comes down to money. I mean, it really does. And the thing is I'm sorry, my ethos has always been and always will be lives before money.
Absolutely.
Lives before money every time.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our next topic, which was Peter Ridsdale, former Leeds and obviously has Leeds chairman, obviously had spells at chairman at Barnsley and Cardiff, wants to see some cash from Premier League flowing down the leagues. All professional football in England has been suspended since March 13th. Yeah. Previously been said the impact on clubs could be devastating. Speaking on Radio 5 Live, Ridsdale, now the owner's representative at Championship side Preston North End, said, I do think while we're at the moment, there is a real opportunity to try and correct some of the problems with finance within football by seeing some of the cash from the Premier League flowing down the leagues. Your bottom team in the Premier League can get 96 million and then another 93 million in parachute payments over 3 seasons, whereas teams in the Championship get 7 million, teams in League 1, 1.5, and teams in League 2 get 1 million. That disproportionate flow through of cash has to be corrected, and there's no better time than now. There's also no better time than now to put a wage cap in my opinion. Anyway, while top flight teams can rely on broadcast rights to make up the majority of their revenue, teams lower down rely more greatly on gate receipts. Mark Palios in March, chairman of League One Tranmere Rovers, told BBC Sport many clubs operate hand to mouth. While Portsmouth Chief Executive Officer Mark Catlin said losing ticket sales to remaining games this season might tip others over the edge. Plans to resume the Premier League season will step up this week, obviously. Ridsdale said EFL clubs have been told to potentially prepare for a return to training on the 16th of May, but believes it may be a struggle for some clubs to survive if finances are not more evenly shared. Said, I'm not suggesting the Premier League give up all their riches. I'm saying merely a smoother distribution to make sure the game as a whole, which is very important throughout the whole country, and all clubs survive.
Mark, you know that I've always been an advocate, right, of the trickle down effect in terms of the money and you know, and sharing out the money in the right way. You know, it's down the leagues. I mean, when I say down the leagues, we're not just talking about Football League here. We're talking about non-league, you know, and everything else. But that should be happening as a matter of course. That's not what I'm going to take issue with. The reason why I sort of targeted this a little bit was Peter Ridsdale has a cheek.
Yeah.
He's got an absolute cheek. And I'll tell you why he's got an absolute cheek, right? He was chairman of Leeds United, right? They went chasing the dream, right? They wanted to qualify, you know, they had a couple of seasons where they qualified for the Champions League. Yeah. So they went chasing the dream, and the dream evaporated because one of the seasons they didn't qualify. I think it was the second or third season they didn't qualify for the Champions League, right? And you know, and they tumbled basically the following season. They tumbled out of the Premier League because that ended up having to sell a lot of the players that they just bought. Because obviously what they were doing was they were reliant obviously on the TV money, Premier League TV money, but besides that, they were reliant on the Champions League money. And the fact that they didn't qualify for the Champions League led to them having to get rid of or have a little bit of an exodus of players from the football club. Hence they got relegated the following season. You know, and this man acted financially irresponsibly for Leeds United and actually cost them. You know, they still haven't returned to the Premier League since.
It's cost them an awful lot.
You know, and I just find it a bit rich, him coming out and saying, oh, there should be a trickle-down effect, you know, for lower league clubs. And I agree with that, but it shouldn't be coming from a person like that, because I just turn around and I think to myself, well, you weren't really thinking about like that whenever you were the chairman of Leeds. You know, you put that club's existence in jeopardy.
Certainly did.
You know? So anyway, that's all I want to say. But of course I agree with him in the sense that, and we've always said on the show anyway, whether it's grassroots football, whatever, there should be a trickle-down effect of the monies in relation to that. And hopefully with this pandemic happening now, that will happen, because unfortunately, we are going to see a lot of non-league clubs go out of business.
Absolutely. Can't argue with that. Well, that brings us nicely to the end of our Premier League and other news link section. So we're going to go away for a couple of minutes. We're going to, well, more than a couple of minutes, but back we'll be discussing Saints transfer news link.
The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday, 12 till 2 for informative football chat and great tunes. It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Yes, right, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. So now we're back. Ralph Hasenhüttl said Southampton are prepared for the transfer window. That's the first one. There's another report. Southampton are desperate to sell 26-year-old and reduced his price tag by $5 million. I'm sure everyone's probably worked out who that is. Southampton battling PSV for Zifuk. That wasn't me swearing, that's actually his name. £11.5 million player hints at Southampton move despite interest from Paris and London rivals. Southampton are keen on Eintracht Frankfurt's Even Ndicka. And there's another report, Southampton approached club to sign an 8-goal forward in bargain summer deal. So that brings us to the end of all of those. So we go back up to the first one, Mark. Southampton are prepared for the transfer window, Ralph Hasenhüttl says, which from the perspective of a lot of fans is probably going to be quite refreshing. But there's probably, no doubt, several of them are quite sceptical, like you and I, and probably going, yeah, okay, we've heard this before.
No, there is.
And Southampton's idea of prepared, Ralph, is probably quite far removed from you.
all I can say is, so just to have a little bit of a rewind for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Last summer we had Ralph, and Ralph was probably working in tandem before he left with Ross Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say these were the two that were making the decisions. So bear in mind that we still haven't got our transfer guru in yet. Yeah. We've got to remember that. But we haven't got our transfer guru in yet. I'm assuming that it's going to be him and Mr. Crocker that are discussing the different permutations. But obviously, if just to say, if you look at the squad as a whole, the two main requirements for the summer, are centre half and right back.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we were to lose Lamina, which the club looks like they want to do, they want to sell him, and we were to lose Højbjerg, the thing is you look at that situation there, you're short in the centre midfield because you're only left with Romeu, who has a year left on his contract this summer, and James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll say it again, much as the Saints fans love to lord their academy players, right? Is Will Smallbone ready to step up week in, week out in the Premier League? So they might have to end up addressing that issue.
Absolutely.
If they sell everybody that they want to sell, or people who want to leave, get their wish and leave. So it's a case of watch this space, really.
Yeah, so this was a story
but having said that, I just want to say this, it's going to be interesting to see who's helping Ralph, in regards to the targets and all the rest of it.
Yep.
But I know you have other news of other targets and stuff like that. But
I'm just going to quickly just trawl through the article just to cover it, really. So basically, this was in One Football, and basically says, though football's on hold for the time being, this hasn't stopped Southampton and manager Ralph Hasenhüttl from getting ready for next season. He's been working tirelessly to ensure Saints come out winners this summer while getting all they can for Mario Lemina, Fraser Forster and Guido Carrillo. He said, we're prepared. We know that it will be an interesting transfer window, maybe a shorter one. The surroundings are also changing because the values for players will go down, I think. We can't say what impact that will have on the transfer market, but we're prepared for it, and we have the time now to get in contact with everybody. The good thing is that we all know it will start again, and that step by step we'll come back to normality again. Therefore, you have to be prepared to use this time now is absolutely helpful. You have to remember the players we want to sell will also be worth less money. It does have an impact on every club, I think. In the end, when the transfers are starting, you have some issues. You'll do everything to get the player you want. I don't see prices dropping that far, but selection would be a more critical one. Therefore, you have to be prepared. So it's not exactly out of the water just yet, however, with 9 games to go, 7 points clear of the drop zone, with the top 10 finish, the unanimous goal in the dressing room. So there we go.
The only thing that I would add as well, Mark, is I know that it's extraordinary times and things are difficult and stuff like that there.
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, I actually think it would be a good time if someone was willing to invest some money to actually do it now. Because the transfer fees hopefully will be less and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the next story. I think we've covered that one quite well. Ralph Hasenhüttl's Saints are reportedly hoping to get Mario Lemina off their Premier League books. Will he stay at Galatasaray? Southampton have dropped Mario Lemina's price tag to just $9 million, with Saints desperate to get rid of him. Well, I wouldn't say they're desperate, but they're pretty keen to get him off the books. So, yeah, they reckon he might go for $9 million, Mark.
Right.
Is he going to go to Galatasaray or not?
Who knows? I mean, look,
it's pure conjecture, isn't it?
I'm not sure that I believe the article. They may have decided that they're going to drop a few million off, but the thing is, Mark, why haven't they shaken hands? What, if there was this alleged offer of $8 million.
Yeah.
From a couple of months ago,
absolutely.
And you remember what I'm talking about with discussing the January window, right? If there was an offer from Galatasaray of $8 million in January, why didn't they take the money then?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't. I saying we're dropping $5 million off. I mean, what difference is there between $8 million and $9 million? I mean, you're splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs.
Moving on to a story which probably got a little bit more weight to it, bearing in mind it was reported by Get French Football News. Stade de Reims and Southampton are in discussions to sign 22-year-old right-back Diavasio Zifuk from FC Groningen. He's been an absolute standout for FC Groningen this season. He's also been linked with PSV Eindhoven, who could lose Denzel Dumfries this summer. Eurosport's reporting Stade de Reims and Southampton are both interested in the Netherlands under-21 international. 22 years old, Mark, so certainly fits Ralph's age group.
He shouldn't cost that much as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if it
following the Saints model, isn't it?
Yeah, if it was me, I'd bite the hand off. The thing is I think he started at Ajax, I think, but he's obviously moved to Groningen, and he's done well while he's been there. I mean, the funny thing is that Groningen was where Virgil van Dijk started out. So. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting one. As you know, I'm a big fan of Dutch football.
Yeah,
and I am a bit of a fan of this player. I'm not saying that he would be an ideal person for the football club. Would I like to see it happen? Yeah. Do you think he fits in the remit of the sort of players that Saints want? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the thing is I think it's like everything else. Everything's a gamble. But I just think when you look at the prices for Kyle Walker-Peters, and your other mate, which we're going to come on to in a minute,
absolutely.
I just sit there and I think to myself, well, if they're in advanced talks and he wants to come, let's make it happen, because that right back. Along the centre half position, that right back position needs addressing at our football club.
Yeah, definitely. Can't argue with that. I mean, so moving on to the next one, which is a friend of mine, as you're referring to him. He's not yet, but anyway. Reported Southampton, Crystal Palace and West Ham target Joachim Mahler has told Extra Blade he believes he'll sign for the Saints despite a previous failed move. The Denmark under-21 international fullback is expected to leave Genk this summer. Mahler almost left in January, telling De Zondag he was disappointed not to secure a move, with West Ham cited as strong suitors in the report. They claim Crystal Palace and Southampton are also keen, with Mahler telling reporters for the Danish editorial how the Saints saw an $11.5 million bid turned down for him. Now, obviously, we didn't know there was an $11.5 million bid even in for him. The interest from Southampton was concrete, but their bid was not high enough. But I still believe one day I might end up in Southampton and the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
He says, my agent doesn't tell me anything, but as I said, only Southampton have been in the picture. Right. Which is great if we get him. He's a fantastic player, Mark.
So all I would see, I'm getting more and more reticent about this. So initially I would have signed him because I thought to myself, well, we're talking. I mean, initially they were talking about 5 to 5.5 million. Then it went up to 7.5. And now we've got a report saying 11.5 million.
Yeah.
Thinking to myself, I wouldn't sign him for 11.5 million. There's got to be better value out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He would be a great replacement if we could get him, Mark. But I just think 11.5 million. We've got other, parts of the team that needs to be sorted out. 11.5. It's a lot of money for a right back. If that's right. I mean, we don't know. We don't know if that's right. But all I'm saying is personally, I'd be happy with the Dutchman or Joachim Marler. As a right back going in the next season.
Absolutely. I know this sounds awful, but whoever the cheapest is. That's the one we've got to go with. Yeah, I mean, that's probably what's going to happen, unfortunately. Let's hope it isn't. I mean, I'd rather see us get Marler, to be fair, because of the fact he's a quality player. But anyway. But
this is why I'm saying about, I know it's a dodgy time, but maybe it might be, and I'll go against the grain as well, but maybe it is the correct time to actually invest a little bit of money because of the prices and stuff like that.
I just think there comes a time when you have to say, as a member of the Saints board, you have to say, do you know what? It's time we got a little bit of quality over a bit of quantity.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about that, hopefully this lad might be quality if we get him. Saints are among the clubs interested in signing Evan Ndicka from Eintracht Frankfurt. The France under-21, a left-footed centre-back who's more recently played at left-back, has been tracked by Arsenal, Liverpool and Tottenham. So probably a fairly good player. Saints are cracking on with their plans to strengthen must-need areas of the team this summer, despite the uncertainty over when or whether the season will resume and the potential for the club to be sold. They also like another left-footed France youth centre-back in Malang Sarr, who's out of contract at Nice this summer, and the Real Valladolid player Mohamed Salisu, whom they had a look at in January. Right back's another key area they want to improve, and online Kyle Walker-Peters would still be in the mix for a permanent switch to St Mary's, even if the season's ultimately abandoned. That would worry me a little bit. I'm not sure which one of those you'd probably want in, Mark, but Salisu's probably quite a good option to go for. Although Malang Sarr, if he's out of contract, they're probably more likely looking at him, aren't they? Well, if he's out of contract in the summer.
Malang Sarr can play, I think it's left back and centre half.
Yeah.
As I say, decent enough, but is he really what's required at the minute?
That's right.
I just, going back to the initial guy, I mean, the guy from Eintracht Frankfurt, the other ones I'm sort of a little bit dismissive about because we're sort of covering old ground there. I don't think that Kyle Walker-Peters, unless he has an absolute stormer, from the restart and he plays every game and everything else, I don't see that happening. Just going back to the lad from Eintracht Frankfurt, I mean, mate, he is a quality centre half. But what worries me is as you read out in the article, there appears to be a queue on, and judging by some of the names that are being linked to him, I think Saints would be fairly much at the back of that queue.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Maybe there's the hope that, he'll come and sign for us because he wants to develop himself.
Yeah.
Which I would always say, if you're a young player and there's a queue of bigger teams wanting you, your best bet would be to come to us, develop yourself, and then look for the bigger move in the Premier League,
Yeah, I can't argue that. So moving on to the last story we have in our transfer section, which is Southampton have contacted Mainz to enter talks over a deal that would see highly rated striker Issa Abbas leave the Bundesliga for St Mary's this summer, according to Kick.gh. After throwing away huge sums of money on a series of expensive flops, it seems that Saints are going back to their roots. Southampton were famed for their ability to unearth under-the-radar gems during the heady days of Mauricio Pochettino and Ronald Koeman. After all, snapping up the likes of Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk and Dusan Tadic on bargain deals. With Abbas catching Niger on a loan spell in Holland, it's easy to see why Ralph Hasenhüttl's side renewed their interest in a Ghanaian youngster who they've been watching closely since 2018. Found that 8 times in 22 games at Utrecht. Considering Southampton been somewhat over-reliant on the informed Danny Ings, reports from Garmin claim the Premier League outfit have now informed minds of their interest in a 1.75 million frontman. Well, we got Ricky Lambert for $1 million, and he was an absolute bargain.
Yeah,
I don't think he's a Ricky Lambert, but
it's one of those ones that when you look at it on the face of it, you think, at minimum risk and no kind of foul. Could we do with the extra striker? I think we probably could.
Well, it's interesting as well because Southampton actually tried to sign him 2 years ago after his breakthrough season at Slovenian outfit Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is you got to look at what's available at the moment. So coming through from the sort of under-23s, you got Dan Luludu.
Yeah,
I would say.
Dan Luludu.
And then you look at just the strikers in the first team, and it's more or less it's Shea Adams, Danny Ings, and then you got Shane Long and Michael Omafemi. So you might say you're a little bit top heavy. Personally, I wouldn't want to see Shane Long leave at the moment. I think he's done enough to earn a contract over the season. He seems to start games more than Shea Adams. Maybe if there was an offer for Shea, a decent offer for Shea in the summer, would we be tempted? Personally, my own feeling, I'd like to keep him because I think to myself, you've had that season of adjustment. He hasn't really been given, I don't think, a fair crack of the whip, really.
That's right.
So it'll be interesting to see if the club decide, because they might decide to sell. You just don't know. They might decide. I don't necessarily want to see it because I want to see him succeed. But they might, if they got a substantial offer from, say, a Leeds, right, who were desperate allegedly to get him in the January window on loan, if they were, if the season. This is all ifs, buts and maybes, Mark. But say if the season was to restart and Leeds were to get promoted, okay, they'd certainly be looking at recruiting them, right? Now, the point I suppose that I'm looking to make would be, it's either one or two things. You would be interested in this Ghanaian lad if, right, Shea Adams was to leave, right, and go to, say, a Leeds who have been promoted, right, or Saints made the decision that Shane was too long in the tooth. Although personally, I think he offers a lot of things that our other forwards don't. But having said that, they could turn around and decide, too long in the tooth, this lad looks much more promising, and just decide not to renew his contract, because when you're looking at £1 million odd and whatever wages, don't forget he wouldn't be on anywhere near the wage scale that someone like a Shane Long would be on. So all I'm saying is it's feasible. It's something probably that they need to look at.
Oh, something else to consider as well, Mark. If they get this guy in and he's half decent, what happens to Michael Obafemi?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, you see it.
Surely that knocks him further down the pecking order, surely.
Yeah, the thing with Michael is you see it in flashes. You don't see it on on a regular kind of basis.
I mean, for me with Obafemi, the frustrating thing is, Mark, he's clearly got the talent there because of the goals that he has scored that we've seen. The talent is clearly there.
Yeah.
It's just, how do you get the best out of him? Because if we can get the best out of Obafemi, in fairness, based on the little we have seen of him, we've got quite a raw diamond there.
I think for me, after going to the Huddersfield away game last season, I had great hopes that this might be his breakthrough season, but I think, the fact that he's coming on as a sub, a bit like Che Adams, both strikers really have struggled to make an impact, because basically if Danny Ings is playing up front, the foil to him is certainly so far in Ralph's thinking is each time Shane Long.
That's right,
so the other two aren't getting a look in. This is why I'm saying, this Ghanaian guy looks feasible.
Yeah.
He's in the price range, looks promising, looks like the type of player that Saints would normally go for. But if you've got a situation where Shane Long's staying at the club and Che Adams is staying at the club, then this guy will be a no-go, because you can't, Saints at the moment probably don't need more than 4 strikers in their first.
I think I'd agree with that. I don't think they really need any more than that, to be fair. So yeah, for me, that's I think you're absolutely right, Mark, that it's probably going to be a no-go if that's the case. Wow, we've had an absolutely fantastic Two Saints show today.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Topics. Really enjoyed it, so it's been fantastic. So when we say our goodbyes shortly, we'll be playing you out with our brand new exit music, courtesy of Stuart Jebbett. And once again, Stuart, we're exceptionally grateful for that. Thank you, absolutely fantastic. And we look forward to bringing you another Two Saints show very soon. Just like to add, if you'd like to contact us if you like what you hear with our podcast, you want to get it from us, have a look on our webpage, our Facebook page, Two Saints Show on Facebook. Check it out. Drop us a message on there and we can send you the podcast directly if it's something you'd like to be receiving. We're hoping to do one a week, possibly one every fortnight. But as I say, if you're interested in that, drop us a note on Two Saints' Facebook page and we'll get that sorted out for you and send it to you directly. Right, it's goodbye from myself, Mark C. Thank you very much for everyone for listening in on the podcast and staying tuned on the radio. Over to Mark H.
And it's goodbye from me. I just want to say to everybody, like I do at the moment, stay well, stay safe, and hopefully you'll hear again from us next week, if you can endure it again. Thanks very much for everybody, and cheers to those that have listened to us rambling on. Thank you very much. Bye. Thanks,
for now, everybody.